This is Backstage Sonoma, your all-access pass to the local music scene.
Coming to you from beautiful downtown Santa Rosa, this is the Backstage Sonoma podcast. And now, here's your host, Steve Roby.
This is Backstage Sonoma, and I'm Steve Roby. Today we're diving into the electrifying world of Oz Noy, a guitarist who's redefined the boundaries of funk, jazz, and blues. Born in Israel, Oz has crafted a rare musical universe where Stratocaster coolness meets intricate, groove-laden compositions. Picture Stevie Ray Vaughan, Jimi Hendrix, and Charlie Parker all jamming together. That's the kind of magic Oz brings to his music. Oz will join me shortly. We'll discuss his latest album, future projects, and his upcoming shows in the Bay Area. But first, let's listen to a sample of his music. This is Looney Tooney by Oz Noy. Hey, that's Oz Noy with a track called Looney Tooney. Oz, thank you so much for joining us today.
Sure, thank you for having me.
Well, let's start with your latest project. It's called Triple Play. Can you tell us a bit about the creative process behind this record? I understand it was recorded over 2 evenings at Stages Music Arts in Maryland.
I finished a tour with my band at the time with Dennis Chambers and Jimmy Haslip. We've been touring since kind of the end of the pandemic. Actually, before the pandemic, we started touring and then everything stopped. And then once we're able to tour again, we did a couple of tours. And when we finished this one tour in Europe, I basically called the guys like, hey, let's do this record really quick before, it goes away. Because, when you're on tour, things are hitting a certain kind of level.
Yeah.
I was able to get it together. We did it literally at the end of the year. I think it was at the end of 2022. It was like at the end of December, like 2 weeks after we finished that tour. And we recorded 2 nights at this great facility. It's called Stages Music Art. It's basically a music school, but it got a bunch of studios, like really high-end recording studios, and it's got a performance space. So we did it there, and that's that album. And then we did a couple of tours to support that album. So that's pretty much the story behind it.
Nice. Well, let's discuss your songwriting process. How do you blend different genres like jazz and funk and rock all naturally and cohesively in your music? It just, the result is amazing.
Well, the short answer is I don't know.
Well, how about the medium answer?
Well, I always have concepts. When I record an album, I have a certain concept for the album. In the beginning, my first couple of albums were more like groove-based. So what I would do is I would just take, contemporary grooves. When I'm talking about grooves, I'm talking about drum beats or bass lines and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Usually it was R&B or something more bluesy. And I would write over those grooves. And the writing is more jazz kind of writing, jazz harmony and stuff like that. So that's basically the mix. And then later I did those blues album. I did those 2 albums called Twisted Blues, Volume 1 and Volume 2. So that was more based on blues form. So it was more shuffles and rumbas and stuff like that,
Yeah.
And after that, I did those other albums that were more. There was this album, one album called Boogaloogaloo, and this one album called the Snapdragon. So they were more like Boogaloo albums. So it's the same kind of idea. I listen to records like in the style of Boogaloo, for example. I listen to the grooves, and then I kind of find grooves that I like, and I write my own language over that. That's the medium answer.
Can you elaborate on that? And what are some of the Boogaloo albums that you listen to?
Like for me, for example, like the Sidewinder by Lee Morgan. That song is like the perfect Boogaloo song, you know. So it's stuff like that. You know, I listen to a bunch of like Freddie Hubbard 70s CTI records, not specifically for the Boogaloo aspect, but more for that. It's the time when jazz started to get electrified, so they started to play backbeats a little more.
Yeah.
It's kind of stuff like that, you know. I listen to a lot of jazz records, so anything from that era that has those kind of grooves, like there's a famous record by Lou Donaldson called Alligator Boogaloo.
Yeah.
And it's the whole language, you know, it's a whole thing. It's basically when jazz started to get funky.
What a great period too, yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I love those albums, of course.
Well, let's talk about some of your collaborations with some incredible musicians. These are top two on my list here. Keith Carlock and Eric Johnson. How do these collaborations influence your playing and the direction of your music?
Well, Eric is a friend of mine, and I'm a big fan of his, but then I met him a while ago, actually, but now we just stayed in touch, and whenever he comes to New York, I'll sit in and play with his band. Whenever I'm in Austin, he's around, he'll come and play with my band. So we've been kind of friends, and we've been kind of jamming like that. And then when I did a couple of my records, when I did those blues albums, those Twisted Blues albums, I just asked him to come and play on those with me just because I heard his sound on it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a bunch of guys like that I used on my albums. Like Mike Stern is a good friend. I don't know, Steve Roby. There's a bunch of those guys that play on my albums, but they're all friends of mine that I admire. And then when I write something that I think will be nice with another guitar, like, you know, Joe Bonamassa played, like Robin Ford, people like that, then I just call those guys, you know. When it comes to drummers like Keith Carlock or, I don't know, the other guys that I play with, like Dave Weckl or Vinny Colaiuta, Dennis Chambers, Anton Fig, or Steve Roby, I'm thinking about the sound of the band, because drummer pretty much is the biggest kind of function of the sound of your band, you know? So, and a lot of my stuff comes from grooves anyhow. So the way Keith Carlock plays, for example, influenced me to write a certain way, or I'm even going to think about, okay, I'm going to write this tune, I'm going to have him in mind, you know? So it's that had massive impact on the sound of the band and on the way I write.
When you're collaborating with other musicians, is there a certain guitar you pick or a certain sound you want to try to achieve with each different artist?
You would want to not play the same guitar as they play. Like, you know, if I play a Strat, then somebody will play a Tele or Les Paul. Or if it's two Strats, like I think the stuff with Eric, when we recorded, he played a 335 and I played a Strat. I think when I did the stuff with Joe, with Bonamassa, he played a Les Paul. I would play either a Tele or a Strat or something like that. It's nice to have a little bit of a different kind of
you try to vary the sound.
Yes, absolutely.
Cool.
Yes.
Well, let's play some more of your music. This is a song called, I hope I get the pronunciation right, Chocolat Soufflé.
Chocolate Soufflé.
Chocolate Soufflé. It was missing the E, and I thought maybe I'd go French on it.
Chocolate Soufflé.
Chocolate Soufflé. That's easier for me to pronounce, yeah.
Yes, there you go.
What's the backstory with this one, Oz?
It's kind of interesting is I moved to New York in 96. And when I moved to New York, I was the first 2 months before I found my apartment, I was like kind of going to friends' couches, basically sleeping at friends' place. And one time I was at one of my friends' place in the East Village, and I came up with the main riffs of that song, that hook. And it was in 96. And I had that hook for a long time, and it was written as a straight ahead jazz tune. And I even recorded it, and I used to just like demoed it. And I used to do jazz gigs with a quartet or trio, and I used to play that song. But when I did this Boogaloo album, I thought it'll be nice to fit that song in. So I actually rewrote it. I used the hook, but I had to rewrite like a B part and a bridge and a C part, the holes on the thing. So that's pretty much the story. But the hook stayed the way it was since I wrote it in the mid 90s, really. Just kind of wild.
Is there any significance in the title to anything?
Well, the reason it's called Chocolate Soufflé, because for years, before I rewrote it, it was called Minor Shuffle. So if you start, and then I was playing with this one jazz band and we started to get the souffle going. And at some point I just put chocolate,
Yeah, that's great. Well, let's listen to it now. This is Chocolate Soufflé by Oz Noy here on Backstage Sonoma. And we're back with our guest, Oz Noy. Hey, Oz, looking back at your early days in Israel, you started your professional career very young. How did your experiences there shape your musical identity, and how would you say it's influenced your work today?
I listen to basically Israeli pop, it's influenced by British and American rock and roll, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And songwriting kind of stuff with more like maybe some Eastern European harmony, let's say.
Okay.
That's like stuff. I grew up on the Beatles, you know, it wasn't like, and then I started to listen to jazz. So I always listen to Israeli music, but not much of the traditional stuff as much. So I don't think that had much of an influence on me.
Okay.
And then I got into, I got into the Beatles, and then I got into jazz. So whatever jazz that was in Israel at the time, the records I can get my hands on, that's what I was influenced by. A lot of Charlie Parker, Wes Montgomery. And then I got into blues later on. So it was more like Stevie Ray Vaughan and B.B. King and, Eric Johnson, Jeff Beck, people like that. In the middle, I grew up in the 80s, so there was the whole shredding era with the heavy rock stuff. So I'm not sure, that was just a general upbringing of music. I don't think a lot of it has direct impact of where I was growing, you know what I mean? In terms of if it was Israel or anywhere else, I like Israeli music, but the stuff that I like is influenced by, more European and American music anyhow. So
Yeah, interesting. Well, you've released numerous albums over the years. How do you stay inspired and keep pushing the boundaries in your music with each new project?
Oh, good question. Yeah. I just keep going. Like I'm trying to find, I know it will sound stupid, but I'm trying to entertain myself, first of all. So basically, I'm just trying to make sure that it's interesting to me. So when I do an album, usually I will play the music of that album at like a year in advance, kind of developing it, then we'll go and record, and then I'll tour with the music. So after like 2 or 3 years of playing a certain album, I'm ready to move on. Actually, after I finish recording an album, I'm ready to move on. So as long as I have other concepts or musical ideas that interest me, then I keep going. I just finished doing a jazz album, a straight ahead quartet jazz album. So as long as it's stuff that inspires me stylistically, you know what I mean? Then I'm inspired to write and to make albums and to keep developing it,
Who are you currently listening to now?
Oh, I listen to everything. I try to, you're talking about what, jazz or in general?
Whatever, like you got something on the radio, something sticks, or, something on your playlist that you keep going back to.
I try to listen to everything. I try to listen to what's going on now, like what's played now. But I always go back to like Miles Davis or Herbie or I don't know.
The classics.
Like that. Yeah. I'm trying to really be open to see what's up, what's going on, that's happening now. Like the other night I went to see, there was a show with Willow and I didn't know of any of them. I heard Willow a little bit. But I'm open to that stuff. I like pop music. I'll go and listen to anything, really.
That's great. It's good to keep an open ear and an open mind.
For me, I think that's death if you don't, Well,
let's play some more of your music. This next track I'm going to play is one called Twice in a While. What can you share about this track?
That's another one of those stories where I had this hook. A lot of times the way I write music is not only me, most people, you find a hook and then you develop it. So I had this hook basically sit in my drawer for years and years. And I knew it was a strong hook, but it took me maybe about 4 years to actually finish writing this tune. And then I recorded it on one of my albums. When I recorded it, I played a solo in the studio and I never thought it was any good. I kind of did it and I was like, okay. And then I found out that at Berklee School of Music, people started to transcribe it. So I would say it's like the most transcribed solo out of all my albums because there's a lot of people trying to transcribe it and play it. I can't play it today, but it's kind of cool to see people try to do it.
That's quite a compliment.
Yeah, I know.
Well, let's play it now. This is called Twice in a While by Oz Noy, and you're listening to Backstage Sonoma. Guitarist Oz Noy is our guest today. Hey, Oz, looking forward, is there any new direction you want to, or experiments you want to try to plan with your music?
I have a project in the making with a sitar player named this guy named Furbayan Chetardi, actually, that's how I said. And he's a kind of well-known classical sitarist from India, and we started to work on a project. It's kind of in the middle of it, but that's something that's kind of exciting. And then I just finished an album for this jazz label, Crisscross. The label's been around for a long time, and I need a quartet jazz album straight ahead. So I'm excited about that stuff. And, I'm just trying to keep myself entertained.
Yeah. Can we look forward to those next year, we would say? Or?
The Crisscross album, the jazz quartet album, is coming out in November, actually, this November. And there's another project that I did with a friend of mine, this super guitar player from LA, Andrew Sanowick. We did a 2-guitar album that's supposed to come out in the beginning of next year. And then the sitar project, probably sometime next year, I'm not sure. Yeah, for now, that's what's up. And I just got a bunch of tours coming up right now. I'm playing office on the West Coast and the East Coast, and then I'm going to Europe.
I guess the best way to find out when these projects are coming out is follow you on social media?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Instagram, Facebook, on my website, whatever suits best. Join my newsletter, anything like that works.
It sounds good. Let's talk about your live shows. What do you enjoy most about performing live, and how do you prepare for a show before going on?
Living in New York is a live music city, meaning since I moved to New York, and even before when I was in Israel, I always played live. It's nice to do studio work. It's nice to write. It's nice to do other stuff, but even teaching is cool sometimes. But live music is where it's at. That's how music stays alive, know? To me, playing live, it's like breathing, It's like you have to do it. Otherwise, it stops, Fortunately, New York it's not what it used to be, but it's still a pretty vibrant live scene. So I'm able to play maybe once to twice a week regularly here. So that alone just kind of keeps my chops going, what I mean?
Sure.
And when I do tours, then it's a little different because I have to kind of present the music for people that, if you're in New York, you can come and see me every week, you know what I mean? But when you do a tour, you present the music to people that may see you once a year. So it has to be fresh. It has to be, presentable. So I just choose the tunes that I think are the latest one that I like to play, that I think will sound the most updated, I call it. I don't know. Yeah. And then, we just play them every night, and we, make music with them as best as we can.
Yeah. Do you have any pre-show rituals that you do? I hear from musicians that they get together in a circle and they, burn sage. Anything crazy like that?
No, we're so used to just going and playing, you know what I mean? It's not like, I don't even warm up before I play. Like, I noodle around on the guitar, but it doesn't really make a difference for me if I warm up or not. I know some people, it makes a big difference. For me, it just doesn't.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Well,
I guess. I don't know.
You have 2 upcoming shows here in the Bay Area, the Blue Note in Napa, beautiful Napa, and Yoshi's, one of my favorite clubs in Oakland, the following day. What can your fans look forward to at these shows?
I decided to play some tunes that I haven't played in a while. Like you can call it some of my greatest hits. Like twice in a while, I haven't played that song live in years and years. And I decided to play it again because people always ask for it. And I used to do a solo version of it, but now I'm like, well, maybe it's about time to start playing it again. So I'm playing that. I'm just playing a mix from a bunch of records. I may play one new thing, I just try to keep it fresh.
Yeah. Who's joining you on stage?
Drummer Anton Fig.
Yeah.
From New York. I played with him since I moved to New York. We're playing together for like 25 years. He was the drummer from the David Letterman show. And played with everybody else. And Jimmy Haslett, my bass player that I've been playing and touring with for, 15 years now, probably.
What a trio.
Yeah, and we've done a bunch of tours, and it's a really nice band. I really like the way we sound together. So, when I have a good combination of people, I try to keep it going for a while, because it's kind of special, when you get that connection, and it makes the music really sound nice, Well,
let me remind our listeners, you can catch the Oz Noy Trio at Blue Note in Napa on Sunday, September 8th, and at Yoshi's in Oakland on Monday, September 9th. You can pick up tickets on Oz's website, oznoy.com, and Noy is spelled N-O-Y. Thanks so much, Oz. It's been a pleasure speaking with you today, and I can't wait to see what you come up with next.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Backstage Sonoma will be right back after this quick break.
Hey musicians, would you like to be a guest and promote your upcoming concert and latest release? It's easy. Just email the host at backstagesonoma@gmail.com. Now, let's get back to the show.
Thanks for listening to the Backstage Sonoma podcast. Join us next time for more great interviews and music from local and touring musicians. You can find us on the web at backstagesonoma.com.